Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Lifetime Legacy Lawyer podcast. I'm Thomas Vick, and I'm joined by co-host Seth Wilson. And also, we have a special guest today, Teddy Conn of the ISG Property Collection. He's a realtor under Keller Williams. And we are so glad that Teddy is here. Teddy, how are you doing today?
Doing very well. So glad to be here and share with you guys. It's going to be fun.
Great. And Seth, how are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. It's always fun when you can have somebody other than us talking. So that's a good thing to get that extra perspective in. So Teddy, welcome. Looking forward to chatting with you today.
Yeah, so usually it's just Seth and myself talking about all kinds of blog posts that have been posted on my website and different issues that are addressed in the blog digest. But today is a little bit different. We're going to talk to Teddy Conn about some overlap that sometimes happens between the work of realtors and the work of attorneys, and how those two professions can kind of help each other from time to time as we seek to serve clients in the best way possible. And so we're going to talk to Teddy about those things. But first, Teddy, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the real estate business.
Yeah, my name's Teddy. I've been in the real estate business for just a couple of years. Prior to that, I was in ministry for 20 years. I served youth pastor, associate pastor, even planted a church, and things were going well. That was the plan that I had, and loved working with people, helping people realize their not only spiritual goals, but just kind of be a friend to them and guide them through life. But then when COVID came upon us, things kind of pivoted. The church plant situation financially just could not sustain itself, and ultimately had to make a hard decision to close, which caused me to pivot and try to find a new profession. And through a little bit of a journey, I found real estate, and I've honestly found that I've been able to take those same things that I dealt with in ministry, helping people, guiding them, listening to them, not necessarily just spiritual advice, but encouraging people and then helping them realize their dreams. So I've focused mainly on the listing side now. However, I have a few buyers that I've helped. And the reason is because I've been able to help people in some really tough situations, whether they're going through a divorce, and I'm able to be there for them spiritually, emotionally, but also in the financial side for their future, for the next step. And then also for, estate planning. I've had a couple of several situations pop up where we've been able to navigate that for people. And so it's really cool avenue that I believe God has opened for me, and I've been able to really be a blessing to people.
Yeah, there's so much to it. It's a service industry, right? And so there is a lot of similarities between ministry and the law profession and realty. It's just a matter of service. And sometimes the conversations that you have with people aren't necessarily about your exact profession. You're dealing with people, and lives are involved, and you kind of have to deal with the personal relations side of things, in seeking to accomplish the client's goals. I definitely have some common interests there with you. My dad is a minister, and I do some preaching from time to time, and so I definitely understand. There's a similarity in the mindset when you're coming from ministry versus just being in a service profession in general.
Yeah.
Well, I love how you phrase that in terms of seeking to help people, right? Whatever that tool set that you may be in or skill set that you may be using, the ultimate goal. And I think Thomas and I align well with this, and that's why you were a good fit for that as well. It's just that idea of, look, we really want to help folks through whatever that situation is. Our context happens to be most of the time estate planning and those types of things, or a probate matter where there may be a transfer coming up or something. But ultimately, as you mentioned, just that ability to educate, get some information, help folks really figure out what's really important and what's not important. And I think we were talking a little bit just before we got started about how there's so much information to be aware of, especially in sort of a probate context, of all the different responsibilities that may have been placed on you as a personal representative or an executor. And how do you distill that down to what's kind of the next thing I need to do? And I think that partnership between the attorney and the real estate agent can really be helpful in, okay, the attorney's telling me this, but I don't really understand what that means when it comes time to actually do something.
Yeah.
And you can serve as a translator sometimes, I think, to help move that through and hear a little bit different context and different side of the story. So just appreciate your heart in that. That's, like I said, similar mindset for Thomas and I, and that's a good way to navigate and help folks.
So
yeah,
go ahead, Teddy. I'm sorry.
I just say I like that how you said that the next step. I've said that all the time. Whatever your next step is, and I think that's what we're doing. We're showing them what's next, because in the midst of estate planning, especially specifically, like there's grief involved, there's hurt feelings, there's frustration, and we'll get into all that. But like I feel like the next step is sometimes what they need, and they also need to hear it from somebody that they can trust.
Yeah, yeah. Just a couple more background questions for you, Teddy.
Sure.
Where do you principally work out of? What counties are you working out of? And kind of give us a range of where you are.
My office location is in Greenwood, Indiana. However, service mostly Johnson, Marion, and Hamilton. Done a few in Hancock, but generally those are kind of the main areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, always good to know exactly where your main areas are. So let's dive into it. Let's ask that question. How have attorneys been able to help you in your work in trying to get the client's goals accomplished?
I mean, I think the biggest thing they've been able to help me with is help prepare me for what lies ahead. When it comes to an estate, all they know is, I want to sell this house. What's holding me up? And when I get one like working with you and some others, when they communicate well, or they give me the documents that they need, and they kind of, are able to just give me information. They've been able to help me translate information, but also give good steps for the client. I mean, there's so much that is unknown because they don't plan for it. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So yeah, preparing the realtor to kind of be that translator and being able to walk the client through the process. Some people, they may never have had to sell a house that wasn't theirs before.
Yeah.
And there can be a whole range of different avenues that they need to take in order to be able to sell it.
They may have never sold a house, not even just not their house. Like they may be, the son having to navigate it. They may have to sit and wait until a certain age, and they don't understand the why. They just see the black and white that's on paper. So being able to translate that and then bring it back to a way that they can understand, and then give them the steps to get there, is really, really a cool part of the journey.
Right. Anything you want to add on that, Seth?
No, just that importance, I think, of, again, we kind of talked about the team of advisors around you. And the more that team can work together and communicate well, the better that is for the client ultimately. And sometimes that's not a reality for an individual. And they're navigating and kind of feel like the world's against them. So that's one of those things that I've always felt in my practice. It's nice that if you can connect with a good lawyer like Thomas and utilize his network, right, to get trusted advisors in place to really help navigate some of these trying times. Because as you mentioned, these are often it's difficult. You're going through a grieving process. You're trying to do this business thing. You're trying to figure out all the real estate stuff. And that can be a tough thing. So I just underscore that point, that putting that trusted team in place is really helpful.
Yeah. So Teddy, let's pretend that, you got a client that has had a loved one that passed away, and they own real estate, maybe it's just a principal residence. What pitfalls do you find clients fall into from time to time? when they're in that situation?
I think there's several. One of the ones is that they just tend to either jump right in and do things ahead of the schedule that they need to. They'll go ahead and jump in and start cleaning out, or they'll jump in and start, involving people that don't need to be involved. And what they've done is sometimes create frustration, create animosity towards other family members, or they trust the wrong person. They'll just, ask around, and then they'll take the first offer they can get, and then they really, there's options for them to help their family. And honestly, the way I look at it is usually the person who's deceased probably intended all along for that to be a part of their future and for it to go into generations. And so by them jumping the gun, not knowing what they're doing, they often sell themselves short and kind of, I don't know how to word it, but basically sacrifice some of what the buyer of that home, who is now deceased, their family member, may have intended for their future.
Yeah.
So,
there really does need to be some cooling off. I get real nervous when a client wants to come and meet with me immediately after the funeral. It's just a sign that something is amiss, something, adversarial is on the horizon. And so, and it might not be an adversarial situation. When they talk to me, it might be that this is actually just a pretty normal thing. And the attorney can kind of give them some facts, give them the lay of the land and kind of cool them down a little bit. But like you were saying, when folks, have the death of a loved one, they start doing their own thing, and they think, well, this is the way that it's supposed to be done. And what they think is not necessarily what the law would have them to do.
yeah. And then I think it just leads to regret down the road, years down the road. Man, I wish I would have done this differently. And if they can talk to both lawyers and realtors and kind of guide themselves, like get all the facts and just take their time. There's usually time.
Yeah.
It's usually not a super urgent matter. So
yeah. And go ahead, Seth.
No, I was just going to agree that there's this the concept of how do you help process through what questions they may have, right? So whenever that intersection first starts, whether it's on the real estate side or if it's the attorney, how do you help start unpacking all the things that need to be done? What documentation is in place? What do the titles look like? Do we have joint tenants with rights of survivorship? Do we have something in a trust? What does it look like? And just start helping them sort of spread the things out and change the horizon for what the expectation on the timing is. I think there's some folks that just kind of go into action mode, and there's others that don't, and that obviously creates some challenge, especially if that's somebody in the same family, right? So I'm a hard driver, I just want to get this done, or maybe I'm in from out of town and I don't have as much time. And so there's a lot of factors there. And I think that's one of those things that as we think about this as a sort of professional service to our clients, is how do we help each other in those moments know which questions to ask to get them connected with the right folks at the right time.
So yeah, I think what you said is good. Like, it's important for them to find someone they can trust and work with, because like you said, some are going to just go after it right away, and then others are going to sit back. I have some situations right now. It's like it's been sitting there empty forever, and they can't move forward. And yet I think they know they want to, but they need someone to help them navigate what to do.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question that I was going to pose to both of you. What pitfalls are there when clients do not take any action upon the death of a loved one? And Seth, I'll pose that one to you first, and then Teddy.
Yeah, so this is the kind of the classic scenario where the personal representative may be in a position where he or she doesn't want to offend the family members, and they may have that legal responsibility to move forward with the estate, but maybe somebody looks at, hey, I'm in town, or I'm still in the house, and the house needs to be transpired. And so those are some of the things to kind of look through and think about, just getting the facts of the whole scenario together and then providing that next step for them to keep them moving forward.
Yeah. And Teddy, any pitfalls that you see from folks that don't do anything?
I mean, from the real estate side, obviously, the deterioration of the home, keeping their finances in order, having, if they're not paying their utilities, paying their bills for the mortgage, but you got squatters and people vandalizing homes and stuff. So you have to have some sort of a plan in place. But I think that if they don't move from the lawyer side of things, from the legal side of things, trying to work my words there.
Yeah.
From the legal side of things, they could really cost themselves a lot of time, and then they don't have anyone they can trust either. So,
yeah, all good points. All good points. So we've kind of talked about how attorneys can help realtors, but Seth, how can realtors help attorneys?
Well, it's just, again, that trusted advisor role of, hey, look, I need to be able to provide the personal representative or a client with someone that I know will similarly take care of them in the way that I would take care of them, and building that referral source that, hey, you can trust this individual because I've worked with them before and they delivered appropriately. Sure. And being able to answer those questions or being willing to jump in and get involved is always a helpful thing to have that connection point. And then obviously being aware of potentials for conflicts, right? And being willing to say, hey, maybe in this situation, I can't help out because I'm too close to the scenario or whatever it is. But just really having that relationship built is really helpful.
Yeah. And for me, my experience is that having a realtor ensures that, if they're a good, and Teddy's a good one, and other realtors out there that I've worked with are good, the follow through that realtors have, in my experience, I've had clients try to sell a house all by themselves, and deal after deal after deal has fallen through. And then when I, told a client, you've got to go and get a realtor, you're going to use this realtor. And they do, there's follow through on it. And so, having a professional whose job it is to make sure that things get done can really benefit the client.
Yeah, I think the follow up is the gold. I mean, honestly, you got to stay connected to people and you got to have a plan in place. So I know that's one thing that I pride myself on. I love keeping in connection, even after a transaction is done. It's important to stay connected to people so that you can get them all the way to the end. All
right. Well, I appreciate, Teddy, you coming on here, and Seth, as always. Teddy, how about we start with you and tell people how we can find you and get a hold of you.
You can find me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, on all those things, but you can call me 765-617-9007. You can email me at Teddy Conn. It's just like it's spelled on the screen, TEDDYCONN @KW.com. But yeah, serve in Central Indiana. Would love to help. And even if it's just a question, even if you just need help, need a contractor, you need help. You need a little bit of advice on what to do here. It's not about the transactions for me. It's about helping people with whatever their next step is. So thank you. All right. And Seth, how can we get a hold of you?
Hey, we're up here in the heart of Hamilton County in Noblesville, and you can visit our website at noblesvilleattorney.com.
And I'm
Thomas.
Yep. And my name's Thomas Vick, and you can get in touch with me at vicklaw.org. Again, Teddy, thank you so much for hopping on here with us. We enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully others can find the value that realtors and attorneys can provide in helping to settle a person's affairs and in other situations where real estate issues come up. Yeah, thank you guys. Again, I appreciate it, and look forward to helping you or anyone however I can. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.